Upgrades.
Welcome back, ladies and gentlemen, to another JVS movie review. Today, I'm bringing you the review of the latest film in the Bad Boy franchise. And this one is Bad Boy Ride or Die. It's directed by Adil and Bilall, again, who directed Bad Boys for Life. And the synopsis is, when their late police captain gets linked to drug cartels, wisecracking, Miami cops Mike Lowrey and Marcus Burnett embark on a dangerous mission to clear his name. Clearly, Will Smith, Martin Lawrence. Let's see who else is important. Vanessa Hudgens is in this one. Eric Dane is in this one. It's everybody who was in Bad Boys 3 is in this one, except for Eric Dane, is the villain in this one. So that's the best way to put it here. So, first, Bad Boys Ride or Die is very reminiscent of Die Hard, Live, Die Hard Faster. I think I said that title right. It's the fourth Die Hard film that Bruce Willis did in the mid-2000s. This film and Bad Boys Ride or Die are very reminiscent of each other in the sense that neither one of these films had any business being as entertaining as they are. As we're introduced back to Mike and Marcus, we get a callback to a classic scene from the first Bad Boys of a convenience store robbery gone bad. And we get to see that updated in a fresh look involving Marcus and Mike before Mike's big wedding that is revealed to happen here. And just starting the film off that way is a good touch of nostalgia to bring the audience back to understanding exactly who these characters are and what these characters represent. At that point, we get Marcus, who has a quick heart attack and throws everything off in the film after that. But we also pick up on the storyline of the last one. We know in the last film when Captain Howard got killed that it was a bigger, deeper meaning to it. That's when we got introduced to the son that Mike had that he never knew about. Well, I think the directors here did a very smart idea of saying, we're going to bridge the story from Bad Boys for Life to Bad Boys Ride or Die and still use the death of a major character in this franchise to propel the story for part 4. And that's what they do here with Captain Howard's death, as they find out that he's being set up by some mysterious figure who's being played by Eric Dane here. Nothing is explained to him about him at the beginning of the film. Doesn't really explain it to the third act. Clearly, I'm not going to explain it to you here. That's why it's not a spoiler review. But that whole setup is what makes this film interesting here. Again, we're dealing with a Bad Boys film. Everything that represents in Bad Boys is in this film. It's loud. It's action-packed. It's silly. The plot makes absolutely no sense most of the time here. But it's still going to be entertaining enough for you to enjoy it. And then you have the chemistry of Martin and Will, which really propel the characters of Mike and Marcus forward in this film here. The key part and the key element for Bad Boys Ride or Die, to me, is the directors. Adil and Bilall absolutely nailed this updated version of Michael Bay's style. Because that's what it still at times feels just like a Michael Bay film. It just feels like, again, it's updated for a newer generation. So you get the fast cuts, you get the amazing pan shots that Michael is known for. You get all those elements in Bad Boys Ride or Die, just updated for a newer generation. Along with, again, while the plot makes absolutely no sense, the story is pretty good in this film. And it's enough to keep you engaged as we have to see these cops deal with being vulnerable. No longer being invincible is the best way to put it. Because from the first 2 Bad Boy films, I think that's what we saw a lot of, and that's what we questioned the most of, is these 2 seem invincible, as close to superheroes as humanly possible. But when we got to Bad Boys for Life, we realized, especially with Mike, that something tragic can happen and that it can weigh on the friendship, it can weigh on the film properly. It puts those elements of it where they're not untouchable. And this film, having something tragic happen to Marcus early on in the film, it also gives you that same exact message. Granted, it kind of feels cliche because you literally just have Mike go through something and then you pull Marcus through something in this film. It's almost like you're running out of bad boys, but by the time you get part 5 for someone to go through the exact same thing. But just because of those elements, I think it grounds the lunacy that is the Bad Boy franchise enough where then you do forgive it for the well over the top stuff that happens from the rest of the film here, down to the setup of Captain Howard being made to look like he was a crooked cop and all of this stuff that's set up that makes absolutely no sense why anybody would ever believe any of that setup. But you go along with it because, again, the story grounds itself just enough by showing that both of them two cops are vulnerable that it makes it work well. Down to introducing new characters, Captain Howard's daughter, Captain Howard's granddaughter, characters that I didn't care about before the film and I don't care about after the film, but they're in this film as a point to attempt to make you care about it. That is the only issue with this film. There are a lot of moments shared with characters that are either not well known in the franchise, or one particular character that's extremely well known in the franchise that has this amazing John Wick scene, but it just feels empty. It doesn't feel necessary in this film. The best that Bad Boys Ride or Die does is when we get Marcus and Mike, and they're attempting to solve everything that's going on with their captain. Also, Vanessa Hudgens, who's amazing in this film also. Like, that whole team that they put together for Bad Boys for Life, and when it comes over to Bad Boys Ride or Die is really, really great. We only suffer when we get to the newer elements, when we get to the young actor who plays Will Smith's son, who's a killer in the first film. He really takes on like Jason Statham in Fast Whatever 8, when he went from being this murderous killer that everybody wanted dead to this very, very helpful person for some odd reason. The same element is there here with the son, where he becomes uber helpful, and you're kind of wondering from an audience perspective, how is this even possible? Like, none of that makes any sense here. But again, you go along with it because it's a Bad Boys film. By the time you get to the third act, everything just goes boom. Everything blows up. It's so many. It's literally set up for action cut, action cut, action cut by the time you get to the third act of this film. It is absolutely ridiculous. But again, you know the franchise you're in for, like you would if you saw a Fast and Furious film. You know the franchise you're in for. None of this should be a shock that this is what you're going to get by the time you get through a third act of it. But the one thread that tries its best to hold this film together is the chemistry between Will and Martin. And that's what pushes everything forward here. In the end, no one else matters in this film. It's their chemistry that makes you care about Bad Boys Ride or Die. So, Bad Boys Ride or Die, currently in theaters now. Out of a possible 10, I'm going to give Ride or Die a 7 out of 10. It's a solid summer action film. Nothing more, nothing less. Granted, it is moments in it that is absolutely ridiculous. It's moments in it that, from audience perspective, you're going to cheer because it's great. From a story perspective, they make absolutely no sense for that to ever happen. And there's too many of those moments in it for this to be something I would consider a must-see, or even something that's even on the level of the Die Hard 4 that I was talking about. I said they share similarities, but one thing that the Live Free or Die Hard, finally got the name of that one. The difference between this and Live Free and Die Hard is Live Free and Die Hard, even though it had moments that made John McClane look like a superhero, it was so grounded as a John McClane story that it worked wonders that you put everything around him. Here, at times, you take away from the element of Mike and Marcus by putting these different people in it. And you're just kind of wondering, like, if they weren't in this at all, we could have really got a more focused story that could have been great, along with a weak plot. But I digress. It's a Bad Boys film. You're not coming for the plot. You're coming to see things go boom, and you're coming to see action. It's just at times it could get a tad bit too cartoonish, and at times it's just characters getting moments to shine that I would prefer they'd go to the leads and gave them more time to like solve a case, to make it interesting at least, instead of just plunging into this all-out action film that just decided at one point it didn't care about the plot of the film. But check it out. Let us know what you think. This has been another JVS movie review. Peace, people.